Hello and welcome. So today we will be discussing the many wonderful intricacies of snowmen. Now, for those unfamiliar with the concept, a snowman is a complicated piece of sculpted art with an amazing potential to be either cute, creepy, or both. Stephen Millhouser's The Snowman skirts this fine line between beautiful and horrifying. I'm not going to pretend that I understand all the symbolism perfectly or even most of it, but it was still a blast, which is why I picked this one. So, first of all, I have a schmancy little PowerPoint, so let me pull that up for you. Alright. Cool. So, Snowmen. So the story was first published in the winter of 1986, in post-Christmas and New Year's haze where the snow turns from magical to menacing in about 3 seconds flat. This is also, coincidentally, the same year that the iconic films Howard the Duck, Crocodile Dundee, and Labyrinth were born. The connection between these films and Millhouser's story is fairly obvious, so I won't bother stating it. Millhouser's Snowman is set in an unnamed town in the middle of winter. Pretty bland, pretty meh setting, but just wait. So our narrator is a little kid who, like most little kids, is fascinated by the snow that blankets the town. At least I assumed it was a little kid narrator. It doesn't really say, but it feels like a kid, so I'm just going to go with that. Cool. So the narrator and 3 other boys wander around the town and happen upon beautifully sculpted snowmen that are perfectly lifelike. Over the next few days, the boys imitate the snowmen, but new snowmen keep appearing, even more incredible than the last. Snow jugglers with suspended snowballs, snow spiderwebs with individually spun snow threads, snow tightrope rockers. The spectacle increases with snow animals and trees and houses, and coupled with this awe is a growing sense of unease from the interiority of the narrator and his descriptions. As the snowy landscape turns fairy-like with elves and trolls and ogres and all sorts of weird creatures, things take an even darker tone, and this is where things get a little spooky. Awesome. Come on. Turning the lights on and off. It's supposed to help, right? So I couldn't find our camping lantern, but I got a flashlight, so next best thing. That's good enough. Okay, cool. So, before we get back to the spooky, I have to explain one of the reasons I chose this story. So, we've learned all semester about how important first paragraphs and sentences are. So, I read the first bit of every story in this anthology, and this was the one that took me. It was honestly the imagery in the first paragraph. It might come as a bit of a surprise, but I'm a sucker for a good fresh image or a vivid description. Let me just read a couple of these. And honestly, this is worthy of Morgan Freeman or Ian McKellen narration, but I can't do that, and they're both unavailable at the moment, so you're stuck with me. One sunny morning, I woke and pushed aside a corner of the blinds. Above the frosted, sun-dazzled bottom of the glass, I saw a brilliant blue sky, divided into luminous rectangles by the orderly white strips of wood on my window. Down below, the backyard had vanished. In its place was a dazzling white sea, whose lifted and immobile waves would surely have toppled if I had not looked at them just then. It had happened secretly, in the night. It had snowed with such abandon, such fervor, such furious delight, that I could not understand how the wildness of snowing had failed to wake me with its white roar. The silver chains of the bright yellow swing frame plunged into the snow. In the corner of the white yard, the tilted clothes pole rose out of the snow like the mast of a sinking ship. A reckless snow wave, having dashed against the side of the pole, flung up a line of frozen spray, as if straining to pull it all under. Got a bit chilly, the heat is off, so... Alright, so these unique images breathe life into the story. It creates a totally alien way of looking at what the narrator once knew as a normal old town. So these descriptions keep on coming as the snow creatures come alive. The descriptions basically just knock your socks off. Well, not literally, but pretty close, so... The snowmen had grown more marvelous. Groups of snowy figures were everywhere. In one backyard I saw 3 ice skaters with snow, their heels lifted and their scarves of snow streaming out behind them. In another yard I saw gripping their instruments deftly, the fiercely playing members of a string quartet. Individuals' figures had grown more audacious. On a backyard clothesline, I saw a snowy tightrope walker with a long bouncing stick of snow, and in another yard, I saw a juggler holding 2 snowballs in one hand while suspended in the air directly above his upward-gazing face. But it was precisely a feature of that second day, when the art of the snowman appeared to reach a fullness, that one could no longer be certain to what extent the act of seeing had itself become infected by those fiery snow dreams. I mean, these creations start plausible, but swiftly take a turn towards the impossible, with the motion snowman, the curling page of snow, the incredible trees and houses made of snow. Anyone who has ever made a snowman knows that that level of snow sculpting is practically impossible with just kitty gloves and things like that. So, anyway. Alright, back to the spook, which is honestly one of my favorite things about this story. So throughout the whole story, Millhauser balances awe and unease amazingly well with his descriptions. He uses contrasting words in the same phrases, such as, "It was on the afternoon of that second day that the passion for replication reached heights none of us could have foreseen. Sick with ecstasy, pained with wonder. The triumphs at recreating the snow sculptures quickly turned to failures as their sculptures were surpassed." Towards the end of the story, these descriptions become even more intense as the creations become ungraspable and unfathomable. It was not until that afternoon that our snowmen began to achieve freedom so dangerous that they threatened to burn out the eyes of beholders. It was then that distorted, elongated, disturbingly supple figures began to replace our punctilious imitations. And yet I sensed that they were not distortions, those ungraspable figures, but direct expressions of shadowy inner realms. To behold them was to be filled with a sharp, troubled joy. Those descriptions are pretty intense. It's almost a Lovecraftian twist with the unfathomable greatness, horror, and majesty that's going on here. I honestly just imagined a snow Thulu just popping out of the ground into their lawn. At this point, the unease is screaming, and the descriptions go off the rails into this undescribable territory. But Millhauser then immediately yanks on the brakes, and after these horrible, amazing descriptions, the snowy fever dream comes to an abrupt halt when the rain comes and melts away all the snow. The reader is hurled forcibly from the story, head still spinning, which is a hallmark of a good story in my opinion. Some of the best stories are the ones that make you say, "What the... Well, you're broken." Right, going old school. Gotta... Oh, come on. Alright, the battery in the smoke alarm has been removed. This is super safe, don't worry, guys. New solution. Come on. Oh, what's up? Okay. Cool. Alright, so, right. Beyond the fantastic descriptions throughout this piece, Millhauser also using little pieces of character that let us understand the narrator a lot better, and it's brilliant, just the little lines he has. I hurried down the stairs, shocked to discover that I was expected to eat breakfast on such a morning. Just little pieces like that are scattered throughout the whole piece, and it's just enough to put us through the narrator's eyes, thus increasing that sense of creeping feeling and unease that's been building, because you can see the narrator's inner thoughts. That night I could scarcely sleep. With throbbing temples and burning eyes, I hurried through breakfast and rushed outside. It was just as I had suspected. A change had been wrought. I could feel it everywhere. Perhaps bands of children tormented by white dreams had worked secretly through the night. These descriptions perfectly captured the sense of unease of when things are just too perfect, like when you find a candy house in the middle of a forest if you're in a fairy tale, or when you're having a perfectly awesome day and you're just waiting for Carver to come in and pull the rug out from under you, or... Alright, cool. So I'd like to close with a quote, one of my favorite quotes from this story.